Good day. Thank you for checking out this video. I really appreciate it. It's great to see that there are actually some people out there that have been checking out some of my videos here of late. So I appreciate that. Thank you for watching. I'll try and make this one quick today, but this is a video about what's been going on in our country for quite some time that has, I'm sure I'm not the only one that's irritated by it, and that's the fact that our politicians in Washington keep passing funding measures to fund the government, and then they slip in bills that change the laws of the land that ultimately end up affecting us. And they end up being on 1,000-page, 1,500-page, in like the case of Obamacare, a 2,000-page document. And these people get the document and they have them for roughly 3 days to review these documents. And I seriously doubt our politicians are reading all 1,500 pages. I seriously doubt they're reading all 1,000 or 2,000, 2,000 pages of this document. And I'm personally appalled at that, especially when these laws that are getting passed ultimately end up affecting us and our freedoms here in the United States. So, prime example for today's rant is I do like to fly model aircraft when I have the opportunity. Currently I'm grounded because my radio is not working, but that's a story for another day. But what has me irritated is the fact that with one of the bills to fund our government here recently, took away what was known as the special rule for model aircraft. I can't remember the exact bill number. It's like House or Senate Bill 336 or something like that. Anyway, that's not important what the name of it or what it number was, but the name was special rule for model aircraft. And basically what it did is it said the FAA needs to leave us model aircraft people alone as long as we're abiding by the AMA guidelines or the Academy of Model Aeronautics. And so I've been a part of the Academy of Model Aeronautics for a number of years, up until this last year where I didn't renew, just because I knew I wasn't going to be flying. But as a AMA member, I typically follow the rules of the AMA. I fly at AMA authorized sites. Occasionally I'll go fly at a local park when nobody's around. I don't fly over people. I typically fly under the 400-foot ceiling the AMA has. So I know I don't go over that. I keep my models lower to the ground. And there's a few other things that the AMA says we should do as pilots, and one of those is put our name, address, phone number, that kind of information on the inside of our model. So if we happen to lose our model and somebody finds that they know who it belongs to, and or if that model actually causes damage to somebody's property, the person who's had the damage knows whose model it is, and they can contact that person for recovery. And the great thing about the AMA is they provide us with up to, at the time, $2 million of insurance protection. So if a model did happen to damage somebody, it's covered through our AMA. So with the removal of the special rule for model aircraft, now the FAA can basically do anything they want and regulate our model aircraft. And so one of those things they decided to do is they are now forcing everybody to register their, quote, aircraft with the FAA. And that's all good and dandy, I suppose, but what's an irritation about it is the fact that not only do I have to pay, but then it has to be renewed every 3 years. And then of late, the FAA decides that that's just not good enough to register your aircraft. You must put the number that they give you on the outside of your aircraft. Well, for those of us who like to build scale aircraft, in other words, a model that looks exactly like a full-size plane that's located somewhere in this world, now we have to put markings on the outside of that scale aircraft that aren't scale. They don't fit the aircraft which we are modeling. Some of my other aircraft, like my remote control helicopter, it's an irritation that I have to put it someplace, but I suppose I can. It's not so big of a deal because it's not a scale model. I have a few other planes that aren't scale. I would be really no big deal to put on the outside of those. My complaint is those of us that fly scale. And unlike myself, there are many others that actually go to scale competitions. By having a marking on the aircraft that's not to the original aircraft, that model would in turn get a lower grade, and you could potentially lose a scale competition because now your model is no longer scale, because that number is not scale. So I find that appalling. I'm real upset over that. But I think the bottom of the line for me is I'm more aggravated at our politicians continuing to pass these funding bills that have these little laws and put on the side. And they don't bother to read through how these bills, when they become in effect, are going to affect the people. And that is an absolute irritation. And it's so frustrating to see that little by little we are losing our freedoms in this country. And I know the FAA is doing this out of fear. They're afraid our model aircraft are going to get up in the flight space, and I'm sure there's a few cases of model aircraft up there. I can remember one where some model flew into a military helicopter, created some damage. So I'm not saying that it's not happening. I'm sure it is, but it's on a very small margin, and it's typically those who are not following the AMA guidelines in the first place. And so we don't need more oversight. We don't need a government bureaucracy telling us what to do. We just need them to enforce laws that are already on the lands or rules that are already in place. And, common sense rule like not flying around an airport makes complete sense. Not flying over people makes complete sense. These are rules that the AMA has had in place for years. And so what's the FAA going to do now? Is come out with a rule now and say we can't fly within 5 miles of an airport? Well, that's pretty much going to limit us to flying out in the boonies someplace, because I live here in Portland and I would literally have to go quite a ways away to find a location to fly any of my models, because we're pretty close to the Portland International Airport. So it's just an aggravation to see a government bureaucracy, somebody holding a position of power in this country that is not elected by the people. And they have such ruling authority that they could come out with regulations they want all day long and affect us every single day, affect what we do, affect how we go about our lives, and we've got no say in it. And that's an aggravation. So, what do? I don't know. Contact your senators, your congressmen. I suppose that would be one aspect to get some of this to maybe change. Get one of them to put another rule in place, put a bill forward to see if we can't get it through and vote it on that would eliminate this oversight into model aircraft and get us back our freedoms. I'm sure that's one way we can go about it. I know there's going to be a number of people that are going to fly illegally. And, oh yeah, by the way, not registering your aircraft and getting caught comes with a pretty hefty fine. The last time I looked, it was $27,000 and several years in prison. And that just makes no sense at all, just because I decided to go fly my aircraft without registering it with the FAA. I mean, it's just crazy. But here we go, one more time. Not only are we losing our gun rights, but now we're losing our right to go fly our model aircraft, all out of fear that we might fly our aircraft into something. And when I was reading through this new change coming from the FAA, reading the law about it, one of the reasons they're putting it on it want us to put the quote FAA registration number on the outside of our model aircraft is because they're afraid and out of fear that we might fly our model aircraft with some sort of explosive device or some device that could cause bodily harm to somebody. And so therefore they want the registration number on the outside and not on the inside. That way when somebody goes to lift off the canopy to find the information, the model aircraft won't explode and potentially kill them. It's just crazy. It's nuts. I'm not saying some loon out there isn't trying to find a way to put an explosive device in a model aircraft and go fly it somewhere and have it explode. I'm sure there are. There's numerous people out there trying to do things like that. I just know there are. All we have to do is look at the fact that, we've got people turning cars into weapons and driving over people and killing them on the sidewalks. We have people walking down the street with a mental disorder walking into a school and shooting everybody with cops cowering outside and not going in to handle the problem. Yeah, our country is filled with problems. So what do? Live in fear all day long and continuously affect those of us who are law-abiding citizens? Yeah, I guess that's the name of the day today. And it's an irritation. And this is a rant against both the Republican and the Democratic Party because they're continuously passing these funding measures, and I doubt any of them are reading them. So anyway, that's my thoughts for the day. This is definitely related to model aircraft. I'm sure there are other bills that have been passed through these funding measures that affect us that I'm just not aware of. These are ones that I know and look at regularly. So there's my thoughts. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Feel free to subscribe if you like. I appreciate that as well. And have a good afternoon. Thank you very much.